Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be doing something different on Delightfully Devilish because I have found a trilogy of films, all of which I feel meet the criteria to be discussed and analysed on this show. They all have a very mixed reception to say the least, so today I'm going to be going into the first film in the Universal Soldier film series.
Ho 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 ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today we are going to be looking into the first in a series of 6 science fiction movies where only 3 of them are considered canon. I've had an interesting relationship with the first Universal Soldier film. When I first watched it as a kid, I found myself quite disappointed because I didn't think it delivered on the martial arts goods that I was hoping for, but on the second viewing, I really got a kick out of it. And this actually contrasts my relationship with a lot of other Jean-Claude Van Damme films, movies that I really liked the first time, and then upon rewatching and growing older, realized, damn, these actually suck. Films like Knock Off, The Quest, Nowhere to Run, Double Impact, and even Universal Soldier The Return all failed to impress me upon second viewing after a good first session, as did the movie Inferno, which I previously talked about on this show. And yet I had the complete opposite experience with the original Universal Soldier, and watching it for this video was my third viewing, and my first viewing in many years. Interestingly enough, Universal Soldier is a lot more than just a crossover for 2 very famous 80s action stars. It's also an early film by the director of 2012 and The Day After Tomorrow. Roland Emmerich, West Germany's answer to Michael Bay, directed Universal Soldier back in 1992, years before Independence Day and even Stargate. So with such a big name director and 2 huge action stars at the helm of this movie, there is a trinity of talent going into making Universal Soldier. Let's see how it still stands today. The film opens in Vietnam, year 1969. If you thought that joke was immature, here's another one. One of the production companies involved in this movie was Studio Canal. Every single time Studio Canal pops up on my TV screen, I always put my hands up and cup it just enough so that it simply says the word anal. Jean-Claude Van Damme plays Luke Devereaux, a soldier whose platoon has all been killed by his sergeant, Andrew Scott, who was played by Dolph Lundgren. It's kind of weird how the 2 main soldiers fighting for America in this film are played by a Belgian and a Swede, but whatever. Scott has descended into complete insanity, which is further emphasized by his necklace of severed ears and the fact that he has 2 underage Vietnamese children as hostages.
They wouldn't listen.
Probably because they didn't speak English. They are Vietnamese children, by the way. Devereaux attempts to talk Scott into just walking away, but he doesn't listen.
It happened! And it doesn't just go away. You just can't walk away, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Dolph Lundgren is really menacing in this scene. He tries to capture the legitimate intensity of being in the Vietnam War and doesn't exactly get it, partially because this is an action film and not a war film, but he is incredibly intimidating, mostly thanks to his facial expressions. I have seen a lot of Dolph Lundgren films, and he really is at his best whenever he's playing a villain. His most critically acclaimed roles include Rocky IV, Creed II, and the 5th season of Arrow. He even gave a great performance as a morally conflicted character in Aquaman. He was my favorite actor in that film, and I hated that movie. Although I will say, the bad guy he played in Johnny Mnemonic was a bit too off-key. Scott orders Devereaux to kill the hostages, but he refuses. After Scott shoots one of them, Devereaux disables him and tries to get her to safety. This fails because Scott literally lobs a grenade at her. That is a hilarious moment of terrible ADR. His mouth went ah, but he said no. Devereaux stabs Scott, Scott shoots him, and Devereaux responds by firing aimlessly into the sky, with all the bullets somehow hitting Scott. When more of the army comes to the scene, they decide to cover it all up.
They're gonna call this MIA?
No, we're not going to call this MIA. That was the name of a Chuck Norris movie. This is Universal Soldier. Cut to present-day Nevada, where a fancy-ass truck rocks up to unload camera-equipped soldiers, 2 of whom turned out to be Devereaux and Scott. A hostage situation is going on at the Hoover Dam, with the perpetrators demanding the release of several comrades from prison. Devereaux and Scott have somehow been brought back to life and are now being used like robots by a secret military mission, which has them sent in to apprehend the perpetrators and rescue the hostages. The action all starts with a couple of gunshots, then walking down the dam walls, which the enemies somehow completely fail to hear before they get executed. One thing I quickly came to appreciate about the first action scene is the A-grade widescreen cinematography. Director Roland Emmerich may not tell the best stories, but he's always sure to tell them with a strong eye for blockbuster-grade imagery. Another soldier gets sent in dressed as a janitor, but gets shot down before quickly coming back and assisting in executing the terrorists. Amid the mission, Devereaux sees some hostages who start giving him Vietnam flashbacks, which affect his signal to the people giving him orders. This I didn't like. I felt it came into the story way too early. Obviously, Devereaux struggles between being whatever soldier he is and the repressed memories that he's hiding away are going to be a core part of his identity and a big theme in this film, but we don't need that interrupting the first action scene of the film. The film should give its audience more time to understand what's going on before bringing this theme in. It just kind of fires it off a bit too early. A large part of this film seems to be inspired by RoboCop, one of the greatest movies of all time. That film showed its titular protagonist on several missions, showing off his skills and his abilities before addressing his identity crisis later in the story. Universal Soldier needed to take a little bit more time before it introduced this theme, and it just didn't. After a successful mission, we meet Colonel Perry, the man in charge, who maintains that the identities of the Universal Soldiers, or Unisols as they're called, should be kept secret to protect their families. This sparks the suspicions of Veronica Roberts, a cocky reporter. She decides to drag a cameraman with her as she investigates later on, discovering the body of one of the Unisols. She gets caught and the military pursues her, but a cameraman can't even drive for 5 seconds without crashing the car. I pissed myself at that. This guy's a fucking terrible driver. Scott Devereaux and a third Unisol approach them.
Awaiting instructions.
Tell them to find that film and bring those civilians back to base.
Scott executes the cameraman against orders, once again triggering flashbacks in Devereaux, who takes his chance to complete his unfinished mission from Vietnam and rescues the girl.
Traitor.
It turns out that the entire operation was done without government knowledge.
Do you really think for 1 second those wimps at the Pentagon would allow the regeneration of dead soldiers?
With Devereaux on the run, this is where the story takes a negative turn. The concept behind Universal Soldier taking to see soldiers and bringing them back as cyborgs, that's a really cool idea, even if it is a bit derivative. And the idea of Unisols going on missions, rescuing hostages, getting into cool battles, performing awesome stunts, that's a great idea for a film. But this film scraps all its potential and just goes for a road trip instead, and that doesn't make any sense. The focus of the story shifts to Devereaux and Roberts on the run from the military, and that is not the story we wanted. This premise seems to be recycled from Terminator 2 Judgment Day, another film about two humanoid machines, one trying to protect a human character and one trying to hunt him. But of course that film had an end goal and a bigger universe where the character's decisions affected the future of humanity. In Universal Soldier, it's just about a reporter wanting to get the Unisol story out to the public, and her entire arc is not an interesting one. And I realize this is the second time on this show I'm reviewing a Dolph Lundgren movie which started with a really cool concept and then went in a really boring and cheap direction. Another film where the action and adventure starts in a really cool setting and then gets moved to a bunch of cheap and generic locations. I'm talking of course about Masters of the Universe, but that's a way different movie. Their car runs out of gas, so Devereaux gets out and shows off his insane physical strength by pushing the car all the way to a motel. Is that supposed to add dramatic effect? There's no countdown going on in this film, nor is the period of time that these characters are on the run particularly relevant to anything. This literally tells us that we've crossed over into another day, just because. And since this is a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, that means we get an obligatory shot of his nice tight ass.
Nice.
Actually, we get a few of them.
Shame on you.
There's even a Pepsi product placement shot that reads the tight refreshment, which seems perfectly appropriately suited in reference to his ass. Or maybe it's light refreshment, I don't know. We learn from a news report that Veronica has been framed for the murder of her cameraman. This plot point returns at no point in the film. Devereaux starts overheating, and while cooling down we learn that the Unisols are engineered to have self-healing properties. The other Unisols find their motel room and treat it like a middle-class white boy treats a school cafeteria. My first thought when watching this scene was that it was like watching a bunch of cyborgs unleash a load of robotic semen onto a building, because I'm just that immature as a person. But I also didn't fully understand the motivation behind having the Unisols do this. You know, since they're trying to keep their operation a secret, this is the complete opposite way of being covert. The writers probably expect us to believe that the military has the strength to cover this all up, but god damn it, you just have to suspend disbelief for a second. The two drive off, crashing through a large number of walls in the process. Huh, yes, the ice is made out of ice.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, buckaroos!
How can you be so damn calm?
Because if he wasn't, he probably would have smacked you upside the head by this point, so be grateful.
I mean, your buddies back there just shot enough ammo at us to destroy Eastern Europe, and you're sitting here bitching at me about a goddamn seatbelt?
No, you're the one who's bitching, darling, and it's getting pretty fucking annoying.
You run through walls. Now, I'm sorry, you know, but this is not normal human behavior.
Really?
And just who the hell are you?
I'm Rick James, bitch!
Where are you from, anyway?
Different places.
This entire scene is kind of annoying because Roberts just doesn't shut up, and she's not a very likable character. Plus, Devereaux barely has a properly functioning mind, so he can't even talk back to her all that well. It reminds me of the scenes in Terminator 2 with John Connor and the Terminator on the road, except the chemistry between them was great and had a lot of heartfelt and comedic moments.
Chill out, dickwad.
That's great, see, you're getting it.
Quit pulling on my arm. It hurts.
Park the car.
Park the...
So, apparently getting killed and brought back to life hasn't stopped him from being entitled. They find a tracking chip in Devereaux's leg, cutting it out to set a trap for the Unisols when they arrive on the location. They blindly open fire, which sets off an explosion, overheating and killing one of the Unisols while our heroes hide safely in the back of cars.
Get that truck operating!
Okay, I get why Devereaux had ice in the back of his car to prevent him from overheating, but with the other two, that ice is going to be completely counterintuitive to their health. It's going to freeze them. During the entire conundrum, somehow nobody manages to spot Devereaux and Roberts trying to get away. This film is just full of characters who never spot people doing the suspicious things in their surroundings. Well, it turns out Scott did in fact notice and hid in the back of their car. And amid the confusion of him trying to attack them, we get a car crash where Scott flies right through the windshield glass. There is something particularly amusing about the way that Dolph Lundgren flies at that windshield. It's probably going to be the way it reminds me of a Simpsons clip.
Go! Shit! They're pulling the plug.
Really? They're pulling the plug on a military operation which wasn't government approved, treaded on human rights, got innocent people killed and destroyed a motel? Huh. Scott starts reverting to his former insane self.
GR13. I said it's over.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off! My name is Sergeant Andrew Scott.
I'm really amazed that he managed to shoot that general through the eye without actually managing to pierce the lens on the guy's glasses. He even punches right through this guy's mask and breaks his neck with one hand. It's not fully believable, but it's definitely kind of funny. Then we're in a diner.
You want something to drink? Yeah, okay. He'll have a soda pop.
Oh my god, the writers couldn't even name a specific type of beverage. He didn't order a cola or a lemonade, just a soda pop. What the hell is the waitress gonna bring him? Oh, of course, the tight refreshment.
This is special.
Jeez, love, you're unnecessarily passive-aggressive. You're not getting a tip, even though I'm sure you're very much underpaid on that job.
Sergeant Scott, can I have a word with you?
I'm all ears. Uh-oh. Nap time.
What are you, 5? The scientists start trying to stop Scott's plan, so he responds by killing everyone in his way.
Oh! Stop it! Stop it!
Are you ready?
Stop it! You're gonna kill him!
He is legitimately attempting to reason with an insane Vietnam War veteran turned government weapon wearing a necklace of severed ears.
He can't pay.
Hey, punk, I've been slaving all day making that slop.
Why would you call it slop? That's such a degrading term. If you've been working so hard on cooking all of this and you're proud of it, then maybe compliment it a little bit better.
I'm gonna bust your head, punk.
This turns into a morally ambiguous diner fight. Even though Devereaux is in the wrong by not paying for his food, it's the others who took it to a violent level, and he's just acting in self-defense now. And honestly, this is one of the best scenes in the film. It's a throwback to the old-fashioned bar fights of classic action and western films, even though it's a cyborg martial arts soldier doing the ass-kicking this time. One thing I remember not liking about Universal Soldier as a kid was the fact that Jean-Claude Van Damme built his legacy as an ass-kicking martial arts master, and then this film makes him hide all that between the gunfire and the explosions. I don't mind it so much on the reviewing now that I've gone in with an accurate expectation, but it does make me appreciate this scene a whole lot more. One of the guys he defeats even makes the face of the guy from the chocolate scene in The Room. And just look at this guy sitting behind Devereaux. Whatever he's smoking, I want in. Suddenly we're in Utah, and the film feels the need to tell us that it's day 3, and all the locals here think they're freely able to fuck with a 6'5" military guy who just got out of a very obviously advanced truck wearing a necklace of severed ears. Huh. People in Utah really are weird.
I'm from Utah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One of the scientists has a Unisol pull the pin on a grenade to try and blow everyone up, though it's never explained why he doesn't try to get away for his own safety. Scott drags their bodies into a supermarket freezer, which precedes a very strange scene.
When I'm fighting this thing, man, I kick ass, well, kiss ass, and I'm busting heads. Yellow traitoring motherfuckers. They're everywhere.
I know I said earlier that Dolph Lundgren is good in this film, but in this moment he tries to give a speech seemingly inspired by the ending to First Blood. And that's when it clicked. Andrew Scott is supposed to be a villainous version of John Rambo. He's a soldier who is still trying to win the Vietnam War in his head. The issue, however, is that when he tries to give this speech, it comes off as more comical. Everyone just watches him shout his insanities before he opens fire on security.
They're everywhere.
The script in this film doesn't actually have the intellect to explore its First Blood inspired themes, and it actually works against the film because it makes Andrew Scott's insanity come off as more of a cheap gimmick. Universal Soldier reaches out for more intelligence than it's actually able to grasp, and it makes its villain less menacing and more of a joke. Devereaux tries to get rid of Roberts by putting her on a bus, but she gets off pretty quickly, unfortunately. And a bunch of cops pull their guns on her. How did neither of them notice that many cops just standing there? Does the universe of this film just not have people capable of looking at their surroundings? And while they're being escorted away, Mel Gibson starts chasing them down.
Give me back my money!
Nah, just kidding, it's Scott again. He starts by ramming them before opening fire, making sure to kill a copper in the process. And then we get the grenades.
you want to say catch?
Amid all his moments of being menacing, Dolph Lundgren also takes the time to be a genuine asshole. It's just wonderful. One grenade turns into a barrage of grenades as the story starts progressing into Thelma and Louise territory, and we get some really nice shots of this canyon. After the prison truck flips, Devereaux gets up on top of it to shoot one of the Unisols in the face, but for some reason it's not the one who's actually trying to kill him, and then everything goes boom. Then we're in Louisiana for day 5, where Devereaux is reunited with some old geezers that turn out to be his parents, and his mother is played by Mother Superior from Silent Night Deadly Night. Scott quickly rocks up, and the final battle begins with a fist fight and a hell of a toss. Scott dominates for a good while, throwing Devereaux around quite a few times.
Run, bitch! Run!
And bookending the start of the film, Scott once again pegs his grenade right at the girl Devereaux is trying to protect. This sparks the inspiration to make Devereaux step up and finally start doing something. And that something turns out to be a series of pretty awesome kicks, but it's not enough and he gets thrown around again. Seriously, in this entire scene we get Jean-Claude Van Damme thrown around more than the final cut of The New Mutants. But amid getting his ass handed to him, Devereaux steals Scott's muscular enhancer and juices up before he starts giving as good as he's been getting. The fight continues with some more of Jean-Claude Van Damme's athleticism and plenty of punches getting thrown all the way until Devereaux finishes with his signature execution, a sidekick to the head. This knocks Scott into a hay harvester before he gets fed into the thing and shredded to pieces. Oh yeah, and unfortunately Robert survived, like completely unscathed for someone who just had a car explode right near them. And then the credits roll. Is Universal Soldier a good film? Hell yes it is. Universal Soldier's issues come down to its writing. It starts as a ripoff of RoboCop before starting to copy themes from Terminator 2 and First Blood. And the film would have been way better if it just stuck to plagiarizing RoboCop. We could have seen the Unisols going on a whole bunch of high-octane missions instead of trying to become Smokey and the Bandit. Characters like this we want to see in action, not in a road trip. Eastbound and down. And the characters really aren't all that great. Devereaux is a really boring protagonist. He kicks ass when the action requires him to, but there's no characterization for him because that's exactly how he's written. And Veronica Roberts is really annoying. Andrew Scott is the only one with any real personality, even though a lot of it's a campy imitation of Sylvester Stallone in First Blood. The whole road trip aspect of the story is really lame, not only because it's not the story that the film should be telling, but also because there's no consistent feeling of tension. If the antagonists were characterized as more of an omnipotent threat, characters that are always watching that you never know when they're going to strike, the story could come off as more of a cat and mouse game and the tension would be there a lot more. It'd be like in The Hitch or Wolf Creek 2, which are two very underrated thrillers. But regardless, the action in the film is pretty awesome, and that has to be credited to Roland Emmerich. Even though Universal Soldier doesn't take maximum advantage of all the skills that the muscles from Brussels can bring to the movie, that's not always enough to actually carry a film. In fact, a lot of his movies utilize him very well during the action scenes and then proceed to mess up the rest. Just look at any Jean-Claude Van Damme films directed by Sheldon Lettich. Lionheart, The Order, The Hardcore, Double Impact, they have great action scenes, but they feel like little more than a generic B-movie. With Universal Soldier, the production values are awesome, the cinematography is great, and the action looks spectacular. Roland Emmerich always finds ways to deliver on the action front, even in his worst films. Midway was boring as hell, Godzilla sucked, and do not get me started on Independence Day Resurgence. But the imagery in those films was still pretty great, excluding Godzilla's new design, of course. Universal Soldier marked Roland Emmerich's first chance to show that he really does know what he's doing when it comes to directing a big Hollywood movie. And even though his film may not be the best display of Jean-Claude Van Damme's action hero prowess, it's a pretty good testament to Dolph Lundgren's skills as an actor, because this is one of the best performances of his career. He's not as mysterious a villain as the one he played in Rocky IV, but he's a very threatening character whose insanity is very confronting. The script is a little goofy about it at some times, but his natural charisma and physical presence makes him the standout actor of this film. And that is not a sentence anyone would say very often. Universal Soldier gets 6 robot orgasms out of 10. It fails to take full advantage of its concept and goes in a misguided direction with the story, but Roland Emmerich's eye for exciting imagery and explosive action makes sure that there's enough of a thrill ride for action junkies from start to finish. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish. You guys, if there's any ideas for movies you want me to discuss on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you would like to see more episodes, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I have been your host, Jukebox Harry. Peace.